What's up? It's been quite a while since my last upload. Life's been pretty busy. I know I tried to upload every week on Sunday, but I just couldn't do it. I'll try to get back to somewhat of a regular upload schedule because I think the busiest time is like behind me now. But yeah, no promises. um, Anyways, this time I'm here with Pokemon Showdown tournament recap of my tournament run in the Battle Spot Singles Classic. So if you guys don't know what it is, it's basically Battle Spot Singles, all three generations of it, and so generations 5, 6, and 7. And it's a best of 3, and if you win 2 out of the 3 gens, you basically move on to the next round. So there were 32 people participating in this tournament, so there were 5 rounds. It's single elimination. And so I'm gonna just recap through my games. You probably might notice from the length of this video, I went pretty far. So yeah, I'm just gonna go like in depth through my games and just share my thought process. And yeah, here we are with game 1. I faced the Squash. Round 1. The Squash is like, he's been a regular in the Battle Spot community for quite some time now. He's been playing since Oras, and yeah, I mean, I haven't really interacted with him too much. He doesn't really talk much, but I mean, he's still decently good. He's been around for a while, and definitely knows how to play. So yeah, he brings some kind of bulky offense against me. Obviously it's Mega Manectric, and it could be potentially Mega T-Tar, but yeah, everything on his team is bulky and annoying. And there's the Quagsire to basically sponge anything that tries to set up on, his team. And yeah, it's also his mascot, I guess. Like his Smogon avatar has Quagsire, so it's like, yeah, he's repping the Quagsire with his team. I'm using a pretty well-known team. It's the Chandelier Lopunny Naganadel team. It's pretty good. It's well known for a reason. And just looking at team matchup here, Skarmory walls the first 4 Pokemon like easily, and obviously loses to Manectric and Heatran. But Manectric and Heatran, it can be walled by Snorlax, and because it has Earthquake as well. And Gliscor in general is just another good check to stuff that can potentially get out of control, which in this case is the Mimikyu. And I am also running Aerial Ace on this version of the team, I believe. So the Tapu Bulu is not too much of a threat because I can win the 1v1 potentially. And I mean, I'll also have this Skarm out. So I bring Gliscor, Skarm, and Snorlax, because the other reason why I brought Gliscor was it has Toxic to Toxic the Quagsire, because nothing else. Well, Skarmory has Toxic as well, but yeah, Quagsire can potentially set up and become a threat. So yeah, those are my 3. I just hop right into the battle. So he leads off with the Quagsire, and as I lead off with the Gliscor, I'm not going to risk a Scald Burn turn 1. Yeah, just getting this burn would have been an immediate loss of a Pokemon. So I protect, get the Toxic Orb, and I launch the Toxic off on the Quagsire. So this is an excellent first 2 turns for me, because it puts the Quagsire on a timer, and then Skarmory can later come in and stall it out. So then comes the Mimikyu. It turns out to be the Curse variant, which is detrimental for Skarmory because it deals 25% each turn. Let me just pause it for a second. So yeah, Curse Mimikyu, good play, because I mean, Gliscor isn't going to be doing too much to Mimikyu. At best, I mean, it's just going to break its disguise. And the Skarm switch is pretty obvious, so you getting a Curse off there would just put a free 25%, or maybe a 50% if I decide to stay in with Skarm, due from the Curse passive damage. And he switches out to Heatran because I've shown Gliscor and Skarmory, and obviously Gliscor doesn't really enjoy switching into Heatran if it's full Fizz Death. But as you'll see here, I do pull out the double against the Mimikyu to Gliscor because I do need to keep Skarmory healthy. Just getting Skarmory down to 50% because it has Drill Peck. Wait, does it have Drill Peck? I don't remember. But yeah, potentially it's just the Toxic Mimikyu. It's not worth it. Going to Gliscor is definitely the safer play. So I do catch the Heatran with the Gliscor, and Heatran really can't OHKO Gliscor even if it's HP Ice. And obviously Gliscor can EQ the Heatran and OHKO if it's not Shuka. So he's forced to withdraw the Heatran and goes into Quagsire. It's not really too bad of a matchup for me because, well, yeah, I have Protect and Poison Heal is broken, and the Quagsire is already on a timer, so it's honestly not too bad for me. Yeah, and Quagsire obviously has Recover, but it's not really going to help him because the toxic damage is just going to continue racking up. So I continuously click Earthquake because, I mean, it's a no drawback play. Mimikyu will have its Disguise broken, Heatran obviously won't want to come in on an Earthquake, so Gliscor is looking terrific in this matchup. I throw off the Toxic onto Mimikyu in case it wants to set up. I debated going for Protect here on the potential Z, and so I do, and he does go for the Z. If he Sword Stance there again, I do have the Snorlax sack, so that I can bring in Skarmory safely on a Z-less Mimikyu because he's going to have to obviously Z the Snorlax to knock it out. So here, yeah, I have Snorlax in the back. It's a no drawback play. Like, I'm not going to risk a Gliscor potentially getting crit Magma Stormed and dying to the Magma Storm recoil. I'm pretty sure I would have lived that anyway, but I didn't feel like calcing it. You know, Snorlax was no drawback play. It turns out to be sub Protect Heatran, but it's not going to be enough because even though he can, you know, use up a lot of my Earthquake PV, it doesn't really matter when Snorlax is toxic. So my play is to just continuously spam Earthquake as Heatran sub-protects to have as much HP as possible. But it's not going to matter because obviously Gliscor can still knock it out. And it's not Shuka as seen from the leftovers. So yeah, yeah, let me just skip a few turns. It's just that, and yeah, once Snorlax dies to poison, I bring Gliscor in, and yeah, it just knocks out the Heatran. It was actually slow, not a really fast Heatran. Gliscor was still able to outspeed. Yeah, so that was game 1, and basically how this tournament works is whoever loses game 1 gets to choose what to play game 2, and then if it's a 1-1 after that, then they obviously play what's left. As for what to play game 1, if both players agree to a gen, like if both players want to play Oras, then they start with Oras. If they can't come to a conclusion, then they start with Gen 7. So we started with Gen 7. I won, so the Squash decided to go to Gen 5. So here we are with game 2. This is Gen 5. Again, Squash comes out with the bulky offense. You know, everything on his team is bulky. And I brought a pretty offensive team. Obviously, you know, Breloom is not the bulkiest thing. Mamoswine is pretty decent, like just looking at the matchup, but it does struggle a lot against, you know, stuff like Cresselia and Suicune. In general, I just didn't really have too much to break past the combination of Cresselia and Suicune. Like, my best bet is Breloom, and you know, potentially Scizor if I don't get Scald Burned. Yeah, we'll just hop right into it. So I do lead off with the Breloom, as he leads off with the Garchomp. It could be a substitute Garchomp or you know, a Lum Garchomp, so I didn't want to stay in. And so I go into Mamoswine, just bluffing the Scarf. I am not Scarf though, I am actually Focus Sash. As he switches into Cresselia, which is a no drawback play. Like, Cresselia can wall Mamoswine for days because, I mean, I do get a 5-hit Icicle Spear here, but you know, it just, after leftovers, it's back at 72, and Earthquake obviously doesn't work against Cresselia because of Levitate. And yeah, I have no Cresselia switch-ins. Unfortunately, I did not bring a Scizor to this matchup. Scizor would have helped a lot. Yeah, my 3 were Dragonite, Mamoswine, and Breloom. All 3 of which struggle pretty heavily against Cresselia. I mean, in hindsight, I guess I should have probably expected the Cresselia bring. I DD and Dragon Gem Outrage, but Cresselia is a beast and completely eats that up. So, I mean, it brought Cresselia down to 13%, which is in range of my Mamoswine, but he brought the combination of Cresselia and Suicune. So good bring on his part. Scald 2-hit KOs me. Whether or not he burned doesn't really matter because he's out of crit range of Earthquake. Even a double crit against the Suicune would not have killed because as it was shown there, he had Citrus. So after a crit Earthquake, he would probably heal off above the range, because yeah, Earthquake was doing 30, which means double Earthquake was doing 60, like for critical hits, and Citrus makes you have basically 125% HP. So yeah, I got completely destroyed in GBU. Not a surprise there. I'm not that good at GBU. I'm completely honest. So yeah, we're going down to game 3, Oras. Oras is a format I'm more comfortable with, and yeah, so we have a pretty close mirror matchup. You know, we have the not Tornadus, the Thundurus, Garchomp, Kangaskhan, and Volcarona mirror. Volcarona is not that common, but Volcarona is still pretty good. We have the 2, Kangaskhan switch-ins in Suicune and Cresselia, and then the covering other Mega, which is for him the Gengar and for me the Mawile. So here we both lead the Kangaskhan. Getting off the Mega and then the Fake Out was nice. And we both switch into our Kang switch-ins. Both of these guys are Rocky Helmet and designed to be Kangaskhan, obviously. Suicune is a bit more frail. I mean, it's not frail, but it's not as bulky as Cresselia. So Cresselia does have a lot more easy time dealing with Kangaskhan. Suicune does have to, gets potentially destroyed by Power Up Punch, Double Edge. And I mean, the Kangaskhan won't go home free either because it's going to take tremendous amounts of recoil. But yeah, anyways, we both switch into our Kang switch-ins. I am actually a fast Cresselia with Substitute, but he actually predicts that. Or he doesn't really predict that, but he goes for Roar, which, well, not only did it, make my Substitute pointless, but it made it pointless after I revealed Substitute. So he pulls Kangaskhan out. Obviously, like I said earlier, Suicune does not beat Power Up Punch Kangaskhan. So if I actually do decide to Power Up Punch, then Suicune is in a lot of trouble. So here, I just Mega and Double Edge because I do not have Power Up Punch on this set. Double Edge does 50% to Suicune, and if I can get it in range of the Garchomp I have in the back, then it would actually be very, very helpful for me. As you can see, Double Edge does tremendous amounts of recoil. He knocks me out with Scald, but I do have the Garchomp in the back who can just Outrage. And yeah, and then now that Suicune is at 10%. Like in hindsight, I guess I could have gone Cresselia, but and baited a Roar as I Psychicked so that it is actually in range of Garchomp, because unless it's banded, it's not going to kill Suicune at 50%. It does like around 40ish. So I guess like in hindsight, I probably could have gone Cresselia first, Psychicked as he roared because obviously I just shown Substitute, and then once I Psychicked, it was definitely in range of Outrage from Garchomp, and his last is a Kangaskhan. So there's definitely merit in having Garchomp locked into Outrage, because Kangaskhan would take Outrage damage because Garchomp is faster, and also Rough Skin from hitting it. Rough Skin damage from Kangaskhan hitting Garchomp twice. But I mean, either way, like Cresselia is nearly at full HP against the Kangaskhan, which is very, very good. Turns out I'm actually faster than the Kangaskhan before it Megas, which could have potentially been very bad because in Gen 6, your speed boost from Megaing gets applied the turn after. So if I was faster than non-Mega Kangaskhan, and then slower than Mega Kangaskhan, then he could have completely destroyed me, because instead of Fizz Def, I am running quite a bit of speed. It's mostly to beat stuff like Toxic Zapdos, because I can substitute on the Toxic Zapdos, and then start Calm Minding, and just set up from there. So yeah, I was a bit scared when I was in this position. I just was hoping that I was faster than Mega Kangaskhan, because Kangaskhan does gain plus 10 speed. So here I Moonlight as he Fire Blast. I don't really agree with that play. If you were, if you were potentially faster as Mega Kangaskhan, going for a double edge was definitely the better play. But yeah, here anyways, I'm not gonna risk like some, Psychic, and then he can potentially, double crit me, like super high roll. Moonlighting was just a no drawback play, and the Kangaskhan takes himself out with the double edge, Rocky Helmet plus recoil. So yeah, that was a very, very close set. I could have potentially lost round 1 of this tournament. Thankfully, we pulled through 2-1, and we move on to round 2. So in round 2, I faced Megazard. Oh, spoiler. Okay, in round I don't know why that was left playing. Anyways, in round 2, I faced Megazard. He's the PU tier leader of Smogon. He plays some BSS as well, and he's pretty good at it. We start off with Gen 7. I'm using a recently made team, recent Japanese team that features a lot of... it's actually a pretty heat team. The Thunder set is pretty cool. The Tyranitar is mega with, it doesn't have like a lot of the common moves. It has Ice Punch, Pursuit, DD. Latias is the Reflect type, not Mirror type. Mirror type is the Japanese name. Reflect type Latias that completely sets up on a bunch of different Pokemon. And it's mono stored power with Psychium Z. So yeah, it's a very, very cool set, but it doesn't really come into play in this match. So I lead off Charizard, he leads off Tapu Fini. That's not really a good matchup in my favor, so I am forced to switch out into my own Tapu Fini. And unfortunately, he reveals himself to be Guardian of Alola. I was running a decent amount of speed on this Tapu Fini, but it turns out his Tapu Fini was faster and my Calm Mind amounted to nothing. So here I go into Celesteela. So he is actually very, very fast, Tapu Fini, because it's running Taunt. And but thankfully, because it's very, very fast, it's also not as bulky as it usually is. And yeah, it isn't able to take heavy slams too well. So here he goes into Volcarona. Obviously I cannot stay in because if he sets up too much, it just runs through the rest of my team, which is Charizard. So I go into my Charizard here expecting him to just want to set up. This Charizard is running Rock Tomb. Its main reason is because it's fast Will-O-Wisp, and Rock Tomb helps it to slow down incoming Mega Salamence and just burn it. And yeah, so that's exactly what I do. I just Rock Tomb this and knock it out. Yeah, he told me later that he was just not expecting Rock Tomb from a Charizard. It's fair, but yeah, mine is a little bit different from regular ones. So yeah, in comes Celesteela. Obviously it's not leftovers because I've shown leftovers on Tapu Fini. It's the 50% berry which comes into play because obviously Nature's Madness is very, very useful in those situations. So I lead Seed, try to get more HP back, and protect as well. And his last turns out to be the Kartana, which is just not able to beat a Celesteela. Yeah, and I take out with Flamethrower. I guess he was banking on me not being Flamethrower Celesteela, but in Battle Spot singles, there's just no reason not to run Flamethrower. I mean, unless you're, Seed, Sub, Protect, and Heavy Slam. Yeah, that's like the only set that Kartana is able to beat Celesteela with. And that's a very annoying set, but it's just not that good. And yeah, so I take this match pretty close. If Celesteela went down to, you know, a crit banded Sacred Sword, then it was going to be pretty rough for my Charizard, because its only attacking move is Flare Blitz. Though, I mean, it was at 100%. I'm pretty sure it still takes Moonblast from Tapu Fini, and Revenge Skill still able to beat it 1v1 anyway. But yeah, moving on. So I won in Gen 7, and Megazard decided to go to Gen 5, which is probably one of his stronger gens, if I were to guess. He played Gen 5 a lot in Battlespot Premier League, and he has a pretty nice record there as well. So this is the team that I brought. I know it looks nasty. It is stall, basically, because Gen 5 stall was pretty nice. Obviously, you know, this is pretty weak to Conkeldurr. If he brought Conkeldurr, I'm forced to bring Cresselia, but Cresselia can get, you know, Pursuit Trapped. There's a whole bunch of stuff that can go wrong. But yeah, just looking at his team, it's obviously, you know, standard sand. Excuse me. This is a team that I don't know if he shared this team on the forums, but yeah, it's standard sand with, you know, 2 broken sweepers in Blaziken and Latios, and this is defensive backbone in Ferrothorn and Suicune. So I've just played the way, you know, this stall team is sort of meant to be played. I lead Breloom, make it into a 2v2, and then once it's 2v2, it's pretty hard to break through stall. So I lead Breloom. I low sweep here because that is definitely the play. I am Sash Breloom, obviously, and yeah, because if he substitutes or does other stuff that can bypass the Spore on my Breloom, like have Lum, it would be a pretty significant issue for me. So I do bring Blaziken down to a very low amount of HP and try to get the very low amount of HP and then try to, you know, kill it off with Mach Punch. But he does the smarter thing and sacks the T-Tar just to get Sand up. But thankfully, since he was at 1 HP, Cresselia can come in and revenge kill it. This is also another one of the faster variants of Cresselia's. This is also a modest 252 special attack as well. And you'll see how it comes into play here because he sends out the Excadrill. So Excadrill, it's on a balloon, it's, you know, it's Sand Rush, it's a threat, but HP Fire is thankfully able to 2-hit KO this Excadrill. And yeah, Iron Head does a ton of damage, and if I flinched, it would obviously been pretty bad because my last was I think my last was Chansey, and you know, Chansey would take a ton from Earthquake and die to Flare Blitz, pretty sure, or you know, High Jump Kick. And but yeah, Cresselia does its thing. What a beast. And yeah, yeah, Megazard wasn't expecting Drill to just die like that. But I mean, if I was full Fizz Death with HP Fire, I'd still 3-hit KO, and he probably doesn't 2-hit KO me with Iron Head. But the thing is, you know, he gets 2 Iron Heads off, which is a pretty high chance to flinch. And once I flinch, it's GG. So yeah, I got a 2-0 win against Megazard. I was pretty happy with the way I played and the teams that I brought. Yeah, both of these games were just catching Megazard off guard, because he doesn't really like, his main tier is PU, so you know, if he doesn't see a set that he's used to, then you can well, he doesn't like, how should I say it, I get the turn that I need to kill a Pokemon that really matters for him. Like, I get to destroy one of his win cons and just win the game from there. So yeah, that was round 2. And now we move on to round 3, where I faced Can't Say, my fellow Battlespot leader. Yeah, so we start off with Gen 7 again. If you can tell, we're always starting with Gen 7 pretty much. I'm bringing pretty bulky offense, minus, you know, the Greninja, obviously. And Can't Say is bringing, it's like a semi-known Moltres team. I'm not a fan of Moltres. I know a lot of people in the Battle Spot community are gassing it up recently, but I still think it's pretty bad. It's still not ranked in the viability rankings thread, which is a pretty hot topic, but you know, pretty hot topic for a hot bird like Moltres. But yeah, anyways, going into this matchup, can't say. Well, I mean, I've seen him play a lot, and I do have, you know, an idea, I guess, of what he tends to bring. You know, he tends to bring slower variations of teams. You know, the fastest thing he used was Mega Gengar in a Vivian team that I passed him. But like otherwise, like the fastest thing he's ever used is Mega Metagross, and usually those Metagrosses tend to be bulky instead of max speed Jolly. So I mean, I wanted to bring Gengar because obviously Gengar is good against those kind of teams. I debated Modest Gengar too, because it's still faster than Mega Metagross. You know, the only thing that Modest Gengar will struggle against is, you know, Greninja, for example. Max speed Greninja. So here I bring Gengar, Landorus, Greninja because it's just good against this team. Gengar just threatens a lot of his teams, except for, you know, stuff like Snorlax, Moltres, and Mimikyu. I do have an AV Landorus just for that, and then Greninja just cleans up the stuff in the back because it's physical attacking Greninja with Gunk Shot, Rock Tomb. It has Ice Beam as well, and Low Kick with Titanium Z. So that set also does a lot of damage to him, especially like after I get rid of the Metagross or weaken it, or weaken Metagross and weaken Tapu Fini and weaken Thundurus, then it just sweeps. So yeah, anyways, I lead off with the Gengar as he leads off the Metagross. So I am timid Gengar, unfortunately. So this was a roll. I've seen the pace of his team, and this Metagross is running, I think it was 76 special defense EVs, which is like, it's in my favor. It's like 60-40 in my favor if I recall correctly. But he said he EV'd it to survive the Mega Gengar Shadow Ball like 15 out of 16 times, so I basically got the 116 roll, which is the max roll. And knocked out the Metagross. I kind of like, I felt bad, but like also if I was Modest, then it would have been even, you know, it would have been an even roll, I guess. But yeah, either way, just getting off damage on the Metagross would be very, very nice for Greninja, because once the Metagross is in like, you know, 2% or whatever, Greninja could come in, it can low kick, whatever, and then, you know, Rock Tomb, Titanium Z, Gunk Shot, Ice Beam, and then just pave the way for the final Landorus T, which is AV. So, unfortunate for him, I do get the max roll. In comes Moltres. I know it's the Flame Charge set, so I go into Landorus because I am AV Landorus and with Rock Tomb. He goes for the Supersonic Sky Strike as I Rock Tomb. I get a critical hit. It was, I think this is a roll as well. I don't remember the Moltres EVs, but I mean, it's a Landorus with decent, it was like, you know, 100, I think it was like 126 or like 120s attack EVs. So either way, like if I didn't kill the Moltres, there was still the Greninja in the back who had Stab Rock Tomb because it's Protean. So the last is Tapu Fini. The only thing I need to do with the Landorus is to just knock it off in case it's a berry or whatever. It turns out to be Choice Specs, and it's in range of Sludge Bomb now, so, or Sludge Wave, excuse me. So yeah, Gengar wins the Sun and Moon set. Yeah, I was fortunate because, you know, obviously Metagross is Earthquake. It's Earthquake, Double Punch, Iron Head, I think. Or I don't think he has, no, it's not Thunder Punch, it's Earthquake, Thunder Punch, or no, Earthquake, Ice Punch, Bullet Punch, Iron Head. And obviously Earthquake will knock out Gengar, but like I said earlier, like Greninja comes in, low kicks this guy. Even if he goes to Fini, like I just, you know, Protean Gunk Shot to Fini, Moltres, I Protean, Rock Tomb. So like this is pretty much a counter team, as much of a counter team as it gets. So I beat Kansei. Kansei decides that game 2 should be Gen 5. So yeah, all these guys are trying to get me in Gen 5 because Gen 5 is I'm way better at Gen 6 than I'm at Gen 5. So yeah, anyways, I bring this team. It's a lot more bulky offense than it was previously, than the last team, should I say. I don't have a Breloom. I don't have I don't have a Breloom, but I do have everything else basically. I do have a Suicune as well. Suicune is very, very nice. Yeah, let's just get right into it. So like, just looking at his team, Conkeldurr goes in. You know, like Conkeldurr just beats so many of his team, except for the Cresselia. So I brought Conkeldurr and Scizor because, you know, Scizor can beat Cresselia. It can do a lot of damage to Breloom because it is banded. Spoiler alert for future games, it is banded Scizor. And I believe I brought Conkeldurr, Scizor, and Suicune. I don't remember what my third Pokemon was, I'm sorry. Anyways, I do lead off. Oh yeah, it was Mamoswine. So the reason why I led with Mamoswine is because if he led Breloom, since neither my Conkeldurr or Scizor is Sleep Talk, it will prove to be an issue. So I brought Mamoswine, which is naturally faster than Breloom. I can Icicle Spirit and knock it out because I am Life Orb. Turns out he's faster, which means he's Choice Scarf. So I die in 2 Bullet Seeds, which I was kind of upset because 2 Bullet Seeds is just 40. 2 Bullet Seeds is 75 BP. I mean, I guess it makes sense. But yeah, it made me sad to see Mamoswine, which looks pretty chunky, to just die in 2 Bullet Seed hits. But yeah, anyways, he revealed Scarf. Scizor is a free switch. He goes into Cresselia as I U-turn, does 70%, which obviously, you know, hints to him that I am indeed choice banned, because otherwise I would be doing less than half. I go into Conkeldurr. Conkeldurr doesn't really have anything to hit Cresselia with, so I go back into Scizor, hoping the Cresselia does not have HP Fire like the one I used. And here I have a free U-turn again. He tries to go for the Ice Beam Freeze, unfortunately does not get it. And I go back into Conkeldurr as he goes into Breloom. He Force Palms me. I just stay in because if he does Spore, it doesn't really hinder me too much because he's going to be locked into Spore. I can burn Sleep turns and Conkeldurr just, you know, can do Conkeldurr things. As long as I get Chip on the Breloom, then the incoming banded Scizor can do the rest of the job. So his last turns out to be Mamoswine. It doesn't really matter at this point. Like, Conkeldurr did its job. Scizor can clean up with the Bullet Punch to finish the game off. And so I get this game 2-0 as well. He said later on that like he just did not have anything for the combination of Conkeldurr and Scizor. Like which is fair. Like, one of the best answers to that combination is, you know, like HP Fire Cresselia or Fire Punch Dragonite, or, you know, just Tornadus variant. Tornadus, just regular Tornadus with Flying Gem acrobatics. But I take the game 2-0 and we are moving on to round 4. This is the semifinals against Rajsu. So Rajsu is he's a newer face in the Battlespot community. He's mainly staffing the Pokemon Showdown tournaments room. And those guys play Battlespot singles occasionally. And so that's where he got his basic experience in the format from. And he made it all the way to semifinals as well. And that's where I'm facing him. So as you can see just at the screen right now, this was a complete mirror match. We both ended up bringing the same team. This is a team that made first place in the Battlespot singles ladder 2 seasons ago, I believe. It was made by a player named Asami VGC. And I don't think it's VGC. It's like Asami Poke or whatever. It's Special Ments, Curse Pharaoh, Balloon Tran, Immunity Lax with Curse, and it's Z Gren and Z Mimikyu, I believe. Yeah, and the thing about mirror matches, especially with bulky offense, is that every turn will come into play. And the three that I brought was Heatran, Ferrothorn, and Lax. The three that he brought was, we'll see the three that he brought. I brought these three because it was probably the best thing to, to deal with his team. Heatran can do a lot of damage to Salamence because it's HP Ice. Ferrothorn, obviously, and it's Earth Power for his own Heatran. So here, it's a free Ice HP Ice. He decides to switch out into Snorlax. So we both brought Snorlax as well because Snorlax is also pretty decent against, against each other because it's also Curse Lax. I go into Ferrothorn, which is a very safe switch into Snorlax as he goes back into Mence. Try to get off a Leech Seed. I miss, unfortunately. This Mence has Fire Blast, so I do need to switch into Heatran. It's a pretty obvious switch, so he does call it correctly and just hyper voices. Goes back into Snorlax as I HP Ice again, and I go back into Ferrothorn as he Earthquakes. So, I mean, Earthquake is a nicer play, obviously, because you don't get Iron Barbs. I do get the Leech Seed off this time, thankfully, and I believe I double Leech Seed here. Oh no, I double into Snorlax, okay. That's not too bad. I try to get off a Toxic here, just hoping that he'd stay in, but there's no real reason to stay in with the Mence, a special Mence against the Snorlax. He makes a good play, goes into Snorlax, and as you can see, it's immunity. We're both immunity, by the way. And yeah, we just pull a bunch of doubles. I need to keep bringing in Heatran against the Salamence, which is annoying because Heatran does not have any HP recovery. But yeah, it will come into place sooner than later. I bring in Ferrothorn on the Earthquake. I Leech Seed the incoming Salamence, or try to anyways. It misses again. I go into Snorlax this time because I can't just keep... I do need to keep Heatran healthy so that I can eventually beat the Mence once it's the last Pokemon on his team. Hang on, go back to the previous turn. Hang on. Okay, yeah. I missed the Leech Seed here, and then, yeah, I go into Snorlax. Yeah, he chips my Snorlax because I need to keep Tran healthy. He goes into Mimikyu as I go into Ferrothorn. I try to call the Snorlax, but Mimikyu works as well. I know it's Ghost Team Z, so I go into Snorlax. I mean, I know it's Ghost Team Z because I have the same exact set. And thankfully I managed to avoid the never-ending nightmare with my normal type Snorlax. If he Sword Stance again, I probably lost on the spot. So yeah, thankfully we managed to make it. Ferrothorn comes back in, what a beast. Goes back up with the 50% berry, and now it's out of range of a Shadow Claw again. So here I make kind of a misplay. I go for Bullet Seed instead of Leech Seeding again. Obviously what this means is I don't get the Leech Seed residual because Bullet Seed will kill the Mimikyu. And you know, if he switches out into either the Mence or the Slax, getting the seed off would have been nice. But yeah, at this point I was getting tired of missing Leech Seeds, so I kind of used Bullet Seed. If he switched out into Mence, Bullet Seed doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if I went for Gyro Ball or Bullet Seed, because this Mence is Roost. So that means, yeah, Bullet Seed damage or Gyro Ball damage doesn't really matter. If he goes out into Lax, which is a potential play, honestly, just to keep Mimikyu alive, because it does still have its disguise intact. So if he decides to switch out Mimikyu into Snorlax, Bullet Seed will be doing a lot more than Gyro Ball, because obviously Snorlax is not that fast. So yeah, anyways, I Bullet Seed, which might be a misplay because, you know, it means I don't get Leech Seed recovery back. In comes Snorlax, and he Earthquakes. God Ferrothorn lives with 1 HP. I managed to get the seed off, which is terrific for me, obviously. I don't know why he decided to go into Snorlax instead of Salamence. I was just completely ready to sack the Ferrothorn, if I'm being completely honest. yeah, and just try to take out the lags 1v1 with my lags, and then finally just kill the Ments with my Heatran. That was just like my game plan once the Mimikyu went down. But yeah, thankfully he brought the lags, Earthquaked, I got the Leech Seed off. As he switches out into Ments, I got another Leech Seed off. I go into Heatran here, as he goes for the Draco Meteor. I guess he thought I would go Snorlax, and obviously Draco Meteor does more to Snorlax than Hyper Voice. So he goes for a Draco Meteor. I mean, it does more to Heatran as well, because both are resisted. But thankfully, I am able to get more Leech Seed recovery back. And he goes into Snorlax here as I HP Ice in case, you know, he tries to call me trying to overpredict. HP Ice was kind of a no drawback play. But yeah, unfortunately, Ferrothorn is indeed in range of 2 Earthquakes now from the Snorlax. So now all I need to do is just get rid of this Snorlax. He ate his Fidgy Berry already. I didn't yet, so it works in my favor. Unfortunately, I missed the second speed tie. Like, that's the speed tie that actually matters, because now I am... Actually, no. Like, okay, there's 3 things that was unfortunate, like, in the past 2 turns. So the first one was me missing the second speed tie, which is a 50-50, fair, right? And then the second thing that was unfortunate was that he put me at it was like at 27%, right? Which is, it was a roll to put me into my 50% berry range, in which case, you know, obviously it would have been very good against Salamence because I can get a Toxic off for free and he can't Roost stall me. And thirdly, this Hyper Voice is a range on Snorlax and he got the range. So all 3 of those things went wrong for me, but thankfully I still do have my Heatran, which can take a Hyper Voice as long as it didn't crit, and take it out with HP Ice. So this is a 31 turn Battle Spell singles game, but with the mirror matchup that we were having, it's not that much of a surprise. Okay, so yeah, anyways, just like everyone else, he decides to go to Gen 5 next. You know, it's a common theme. I bring the same team as before. I didn't really feel like using a different team. He's using the same team that Megazard brought versus me, and yeah. He leads Ferrothorn, I lead Scizor. He makes a severe, like, I don't know if it's a misplay, but I don't know what he expected. Like, he said he expected Superpower, but I mean, I guess it's fair. I have no reason to Superpower there anyway. He goes straight into Latios as I U-turn and completely destroyed the Latios. So the Latios was the only thing that was stopping my Conkeldurr from going in against his team. And yeah, I do have a Suicune for the Blaziken. I don't really need to risk Conkeldurr, you know, getting crit by Blaziken. I kind of hoped Suicune can take 2 high jump kicks, but it turns out it's Life Orb Blaziken, unfortunately. So I do get potentially just completely destroyed by this high jump kick. So down goes Suicune. I should also make that Suicune shiny. I just noticed that this Suicune was not shiny, which means it doesn't have Sheer Pull. That's a terrible misplay by me. Anyways, now that I know it's Life Orb, like, I can Drain Punch and then into Mach Punch with my Conkeldurr. The reason why I didn't do that before is because Drain Punch into Mach Punch does not KO Blaziken. But with the Life Orb recoil, it does, and that's exactly what I do. So yeah, Drain Punch does like 65%, and Mach Punch does not take it out from full. So yeah, his last 2 are the Ferrothorn and the Blaziken, which do not beat Conkeldurr. He needs to, you know, crit Power Whip here, but even then with Drain Punch recovery, it's just not going to be enough. And Conkeldurr pulls through. Thankfully, you know, because Latios was destroyed in turn 1 basically. Yeah, Conkeldurr was able to pull through the rest of his team. If he didn't sack Latios, obviously he has switch-ins. He can switch it in to Conkeldurr, because this Conkeldurr is it's not Ice Punch, it's Stone Edge. So like, my best play against Latios is obviously clicking Stone Edge, which 1 can miss and 2 doesn't really do enough. It does put it in Scizor's Bullet Punch range because it's banded, but you know, Ferrothorn can come in easily, yada yada yada. But yeah, anyways, I managed to take the set 2-0 as well, and we move on to finals where I faced Jamal98. So Jamal is another regular. He's been playing for a while. Like, he's been here since he's a day one basically. And yeah, he's won the 2017 circuit. Yeah, so he's very good. I was excited to play him. I'm like 0-5 against Jamal in tournament because yeah, I just keep getting destroyed. So we start off with Gen 7 again, and I brought Stall. Yeah, sorry if you guys don't like watching Stall, but you gotta do what you gotta do to win. Anyways, Stall was good against Jamal's like usual architecture because he brings bulky offense, and well, I mean, like, bulky offense usually like sets up a lot, and but I do have, you know, stuff that I do have like the Haze Toxapex and stuff to try to mitigate that as much as possible. So yeah, this is actually a very intense match. So lead Landorus versus Gliscor. I protect here in case he goes for a knockoff. Turns out he's the substitute set, which is sub, bulk up, EQ, and usually it's Smackdown, but as you'll see later, this is the Gravity set. So the Gravity set actually the Gravity like mechanics actually comes into play soon, as you'll see here. So he's mono. So one, if he was Smackdown, he'd be able to use it while he's taunted, but thankfully he's not. Because Gravity is a status move, obviously. So here I was able to get just a bunch of free turns, as he does set up Gravity right now. The good thing about you know, being able to taunt in the beginning was that I was able to make him lose you know, quite a few Earthquake PP, because as you can see from, you know, my Skarmory set, it's Iron Defense and versus his bulk up set. So it's gonna come down to Earthquake critting at the end of the day, right? I do need to get taunts off on the. I do need to get the taunt off on the Landorus, because what that means is he's going to be locked into Earthquake because he only has one attack, which is Earthquake. And as you can see now, Gravity expires. So if he decides to stay in, he's gonna just be wasting Earthquakes that he needs to crit with. So like, he's gonna have less chances to crit me with. So yeah, Iron Defense Skarmory coming into play. If it was not Iron Defense, obviously Landorus just completely destroys me. Because like, you know, I do have Sturdy, but like, what am I gonna do back? Because this isn't Whirlwind, it's Iron Defense, Taunt, Drill Peck, Roost. So yeah, in comes the Charizard on my Drill Peck. As I obviously cannot stay in here, I go into Toxapex. So the reason I bring Toxapex is obviously because you know, he has a bunch of setup Pokemon, which is common to see in the bulky offense team that Jamal likes to bring. So I do have Haze, and it does wall this Charizard because Jamal brings like, one of the Charizard sets that Jamal likes to bring is the bulky one. The bulky one that's like more support oriented, so that, you know, the stuff in the back can sweep. So he Will-O-Wisps me, he Thunder Punches me, realizes he doesn't do enough, and I get the Toxic off, which is very nice because I can get the Charizard is on a timer. Like, every time it comes in, it's gonna take toxic damage, and you know, I can eventually it's gonna be forced to Roost, in which case I get the turn advantage, and then because I'll have Gliscor in, obviously, and yeah, basically just win from there. So his last was Celesteela, and this really annoyed me because he had two Pokemon with Substitute against my team, which is kind of reliant on you know, my opponent not having Substitute. So he had double sub, and yeah, obviously Leech Seed is very bad against me as well. I go for two Scalds with Toxapex. It doesn't break the sub, and I'm like, oh no, this is Spidest Steela as well with Leech Seed. It's just not looking good. But yeah, anyways, I go for another Scald here, just trying to get a burn if he, you know, decides to get greedy. He he was greedy for a different reason. He went straight Landers. If I got a burn here, it was just basically GG, because then he would have 0 ways of beating Skarmory, like literally. So yeah, unfortunately I don't get the burn, but I do have a very safe switch in to this, which is my Skarmory. You know, he can gravity up and earthquake me, but I am that heavy iron defense, and that earthquake, those 2 earthquakes does not take Skarmory out. What a beast. So yeah, I mean, same as before, it is reliant on me not getting crit. Yeah, I just roost to full just in case. I'm not gonna risk, you know, silly stuff like you know, trying to go for taunt and then just earthquaked and then just put it in a bad position. But yeah, anyways, in comes Steela. I have a free switch into Toxapex. He goes for a flamethrower just in case I stay into taunt. I'm not going to risk Skarmory. I need to keep Skarmory healthy so that every time it comes in on Landers, it can still win. So yeah, just keeping Skarmory at full health was pretty much mandatory. Yeah. And here we see that Scald breaks the sub after 2 hits, but the first one was a crit, so that's basically why that happened. In comes, I try to call the Landers play. I try to call the Landers coming in by going to Skarm, because there's no way, like there's no human that clicks flamethrower here against the Toxapex. So I try to call the Landers coming in by going to Skarm, but he just went for substitute, which is fair. It's the safest play, but it also it's also beneficial to me because I get my regen, health recovery, and yeah. So now he realizes that there's the potential for Skarmory to come in. So I'm just gonna click Scald, or you know, switch out to Gliscor. The combination of Gliscor and Toxapex completely walls the Celesteela, because even with Leech Seed, like Poison Heal basically negates Leech Seed damage, and Regenerator obviously heals a lot more than Leech Seed ever can do. And yeah, so right now my play is just to just switch around, PP stall the Leech Seeds, and eventually like the Celesteela is not going to be able to do anything. In comes the Charizard. This Charizard set cannot touch me because it showed Will-O-Wisp, it showed T-Punch, last is Roost, and Flare Blitz, and obviously I can just Earthquake. But he makes a good play, goes into Celesteela. I go for Guillotine here, I miss. He gets greedy and goes for Heavy Slam. I don't really agree with that, but yeah, I go for another Guillotine here. I miss again, unfortunately. And yeah, he realizes that he was not safe, and then he goes for a substitute. So here I protect, see if I can burn a few more Leech Seeds. He goes for the Flamethrower instead, which is not too bad. I just go back into Toxapex here because I can just come in on this for days. And yeah, I just keep clicking Scald. Try to break the sub and you know, just force him to keep clicking Leech Seed against me. Switch between Toxapex and not Tyranitar, Gliscor. And yeah, there's basically nothing that he can do to break through these two. In comes the Landers on the Toxapex. Good play by him, calling the Toxapex switch. But fortunate for me, I do keep my Skarmory fully healthy, and yeah, it's just able to completely wall the Landers. I go for the taunt here because if he does decide to switch out to Celesteela, it's obviously good for me. And if I go to, if he does do gravity, then I can still keep up with by using Iron Defense. So yeah, anyways, I get the taunt off on the Celesteela, which is great for me because I can really switch into Gliscor. He makes a good play, goes back into Landers. I go back into Skarmory as he sets up gravity. Good play by him. And yeah, it's basically the same thing as before, where Skarmory is a beast with Iron Defense. And yeah, my only play is to just get back to full so that if he does switch out and I switch out, I can just come back in and do the same thing again. Yeah, so that's exactly what happens. I see him try to set up, so it's likely that he's not going to, you know, try to do that anymore. And yeah, right now he's one Earthquake turn behind, so I can keep up with my recovery. and I have no reason to not click Roost, because if he does crit, then I'll just go to Sturdy, like 1 HP with Sturdy, and yeah, I'll go down to 1 HP with Sturdy, and then I'll heal back up to 51% basically. And Landorus, as you can see here, Earthquake is 0 out of 16. He ran out of Earthquakes. He has no way of beating Skarmory. He has no way of beating Pex, and he has no way of beating Gliscor. So yeah, that was a 57 turn Battlespot singles game that ended up with me winning 3-0. And yeah, this time he actually opts to go to Gen 6 instead of Gen 7, unlike my other opponents, because Gen 6 is Jamal's strongest tier, for sure. He doesn't really like Gen 5 either, so we both go to Gen 6. And yeah, he brought a team that he's used in past rounds. You know, it's Helmet, Hippo for the Kang switch-in. He has 2 Kang switch-ins, but obviously, like, you know, Suicune can do other stuff than be a Rocky Helmet user. It can be like Rest of Chesto, it can be Miracle, AV, etc, etc. I believe this was Rest of Chesto, Calm Mind. Yeah, it's like substitute Calm Mind, Raikou. It's just a bunch of setup mons, and this is the annoying Spidef Talonflame. So here I bring Greninja, I believe I bring Greninja, Kangaskhan, and Thundurus, because this Greninja is Specs. It can kill basically anything, almost everything, barring, you know, Talonflame, because Talonflame is faster. And so, you know, Thundurus is a good switch in against the Talonflame because it doesn't really mind getting taunted, burned, or anything. And then Kangaskhan, because Kangaskhan is just, in general, super good. Actually, I don't think I brought Kangaskhan. I don't remember. Anyways, I lead Specs Greninja because it was a good lead against like 5 out of 6. It Oko's Aegislash as well. And I have Grass Knot. And I go for it. Gone. Suicune is dead. I calced it. It was like a roll in my favor. Depends on the spreads. But if it's, because it's Fizdef, like full Fizdef Hippowdon for Kangaskhan, like there's a chance that Suicune is actually not running full HP and putting some EVs into special attack and speed. Because in that situation, like what Suicunes do, if they carry Miracle, which I probably should have checked in like when I was doing research. If it was carrying Miracle, then it'll go for Miracle, or if it was carrying Calm Mind, then it'll go for Calm Mind. Either way, like I'm pretty sure it was Calm Mind too. And if you Calm Minded, it didn't really matter because he would be at like 2% and +1. Spidef doesn't really help you at 2%. In comes the Raikou. I just click Specs Grass Knot again because Raikou's a pretty chunky boy, and it does it's 100 BP Grass Knots. I unfortunately crit here. I crit the Raikou. It obviously lives, but I have Kang in the back, and Kang can just bring everything into the range for Thundurus, which was offensive HP Ice for Hippowdon, and Raikou can't really kill it in one. So yeah, the crit, I mean, it obviously mattered here because like if it was HP Ice, it puts me. That's also a roll as well, +1 HP Ice against Greninja, because I have 212 special attack and I think 36 special defense. I believe it was a roll anyway. But yeah, Hippowdon, there's no chance it lives the Grass Knot. So the final game of the final match turns out to end in 4 turns, whereas the first game was a 57 turn game. So yeah, I end up taking the whole thing, which is, yeah, I was very happy. I mean, I've been playing these tournaments for like 3 years now, I think. Yeah, 3 years. This is the first time I won, so I was really, really happy. It was against Jamal too, and like, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I had a severe loss streak against Jamal because he's a fantastic player. But yeah, I managed to take this set 2-0. Turns out, like in the whole tournament, the only time I lost was in round 1 against the Squash in Gen 5. no surprises. But yeah, every other game, I was pretty happy with the way I played. You know, barring a few misplays that I mentioned in the video. But yeah, I think yeah, yeah, it was just a great feeling to just finally be able to win one of these tournaments. So yeah, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope my commentary was not too bad. Feeling a bit rusty. I'll try to be back, uploading regularly, and especially with Gen 8 coming out, and I do have a Switch capture card, so hopefully I can, upload stuff regarding Sword and Shield. And but before that, I'll try to get some, blindfolded challenge clips in here and there, if my life allows it. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.